So I have a roll coming up. One of the injuries I've sustained is a 3 centimetre stab wound. Now I'm going to make several of these, but the one I want to show you is what I would call a gaping wound, where the penetrating injury has sort of released the tension on the skin, so it widens open, sort of like an oval shape. So to make this 3 centimetre stab wound, I'll be using Sculpt Gel and Plaxil. So to start with, I'm going to mix up some Flesh Tone Sculpt Gel. So I'll just colour it a small amount of flesh. To which I'll add a small amount of red flocking. Blue. Yellow, and fair skin. Now that's nicely mixed. I'm just going to place down equal amounts of part B. And part C. Quickly degrease my skin. And mix all 3 parts together. Now we're ready to apply. So I'll start with the lower edge. The head of this tool is about 3 centimeters, so I'm working to that length. Maybe a little bit more from here, and some from there. And I'll just place that there. one I'm just tacking down the edges. Two, I'm trying to angle the elevated parts so they look like they're naturally flowing from the skin. Take this edging tool, as I call it. Start pulling that centre back out. This is more like a 4 centimetre wound, so I'm just going to close this end down a bit. Three and a half. Still just a little bit over. Yeah, that's about right. the Surgical Spirit. Gonna go in quick with sponge. Help blend in the edges and remove some of that shine and give it a nice texture. Give it a more defining texture using a stipple or a stopple sponge. And I'm just using something that's got a point on the end to try and put in some elements of jaggedness. As always, just as it's really starting to fully cure, I go back in with a clean, smooth tool, run it over, take some of those excessive shine areas out. After I've done this, a little bit more Surgical Spirit and then go over with a sponge. Now we just have to wait for this to cure and then we can go on and do the inlay. Okay, so now we're back and this silicone has cured nicely, so now we'll start work on the inlay. For this I'm just going to be using Platsil, so I'll start by dishing out quantity of Platsil A. To which colour the whole puddle of red. Making sure it's nice and opaque. Then I'll add a scratch of blue. And just have a little puddle there that's got a little bit more blue. And then this Just add in a little bit of brown. Then I'll add an equal amount of Platzil B. And now I'm ready to mix. All I want to do is drag the whole thing up to the red and lift over that skin. Drag the whole thing over and lift over like that. So this end here, red with a little bit more blue. This red with a little bit of brown. And this is red with a scratch of blue. So in this one puddle, I have 3 tones. So I'll start by putting my lightest red in. This is sort of just my base coat. Got it up to the edges. I know it's one complete wound. That's what I want with my base coat, just to fill in that void in the centre. And let it create these kind of light and thick patches. Almost naturally. And we'll start. Just putting some darker tones in those areas that look lighter because they're not as thick. There's a bit of the brown. Just with that last bit, put in some more brown. Just take it even further down. silicone starts to cure, go in, just start adding textured lines to it. You can see as I'm using the point of the tool, it's starting to hold that strike line. Not quite, it's still. But if we continue, get to the point where every mark we make will remain. So pushing some of the red up against the wall of the flesh of the opening. Keep going at this until it really starts to go off. Then I'll be using my tool to just kind of create some patches but lack shine and some patches with high shine. Although the whole wound will be bleeding, I do like the combination of gloss and matte. They complement each other. So we're in the last final moments for this. So now I'm just keeping my strokes very short to try and give a directional stroke the length of my arm, but to create more like dimples rather than actual streaks. gloss there. Break that up a little bit. Keep that bit of high gloss, break that. Take it out of the top here. Take it out there. Just use the last bits on the palette to give the centre a few very raised dimples. And this adds to the whole three-dimensional appearance. The finished world. Loath to go in with a sponge, but I'll try it very lightly. There we have it. And that's a 3 centimetre, although it's more like 3.5. It's about just over 3 centimetre stab wound, and that's how I do it.